The Backrooms. You've been here before. Entity number 62, Clinker Toys. Habitat, level 800. Image caption, an image of a supposed Clinker toy. Description: Entity 62 have an appearance similar to a zombified corpse with clockwork apparatus attached to various parts of their body. Clinker toys can vary in appearance and shape, but all act very similar. They normally wander around aimlessly until alerted to the presence of a human. They act with hostility towards humans and will attack humans when they are present. Clinker toys are not capable of speech, but have been heard making sounds described as groaning and a metallic ticking sound, much like a clock ticking. They have not been reported on other levels. Behaviors: Clinker toys are typically docile creatures when not in the presence of humans. It has been determined that Clinker toys cannot see or hear very well, so they will only attack if a human gets very close to them. Clinker toys do not need to eat or drink to survive. Biology: Clinker toys are humanoid figures with rotten flesh and many distorted features. Clinker toys are usually missing body parts or segments of flesh, and, in their place, are parts of clockwork machines, typically being metallic joints replacing knees and elbows, torsion springs, and metal ribbons replacing the pivotal points on the neck and groin, small 9mm camera lenses replacing the eyes, and many more examples. One thing all of the Clinker toys have in common appearance-wise is a key located in the center of their backs, and are most commonly seen on wind-up toys. These keys move in a clockwise rotation when the Clinker toys walk. Discovery: Clinker toys were discovered on 3/12/21 when two of the entities were seen aimlessly wandering around the exit of level 799. Do's and don'ts. Do: walk away slowly and calmly when encountering a Clinker toy. Try not to make any loud sounds. Don't: run in the presence of a Clinker toy unless being chased. Make loud or alerting sounds. Testing logs. Open log 1. Subject: Entity 62. Clinker toys. Item: almond water. Time of test: March 28, 2021, 6:36 p.m. Start log: 6:38 p.m. Entity slowly walks over to a bottle of almond water on a table. 6:40 p.m. Entity holds bottle in hands and begins biting the top of the bottle, seemingly attempting to remove the cap. 6:43 p.m. Entity appears to give up trying to open the bottle and drops it on the ground, causing a loud sound. 6:43 p.m. Entity gets startled and begins growling and screaming, as if it senses danger. 6:44 p.m. Entity flees from the room out of fear. End log. Open log 2. Subject: Entity 62, Clinker toys. Item: a full toolbox. Time of test: April 13th, 2021, 3:01 a.m. Start log: 3:02 a.m. Entity approaches the toolbox and sits down on the floor. 3:02 a.m. Entity slowly opens the toolbox and receives a wrench. 3:04 a.m. Entity presses the beak of the wrench to a large screw located on the left temple of its head and begins to rotate the wrench, tightening the screw. 3:07 a.m. Entity places down the wrench and receives a pipe wrench out of the toolbox and puts the beak of it to its elbow, where a metallic joint replaces the arm. 3:07 a.m. Entity begins twisting the joint, where it makes squeaking sounds as if the joint is rusted. During this, the entity makes many pained groaning sounds. 3:12 a.m. The entity begins to quote-unquote cry as black viscous liquid begins dripping out of the entity's eyes. The entity still makes groaning sounds. 3:13 a.m. The entity stands up, still crying and holding the pipe wrench. 3:16 a.m. Entity begins bludgeoning itself in the head with the wrench while screaming and wailing. 3:19 a.m. Entity hurls itself at multiple walls, causing massive trauma to its body. 3:34 a.m. Entity suddenly falls to the floor. 3:35 a.m. Entity immediately begins melting into a black goop on the ground. Strangely, the entity is still alive during this process and begins to sob. 4:12 a.m. Sobbing stops and entity is presumed dead. End log. Audio excerpt of the test. Show log 3. Note: the following experiment occurred entirely on accident, as a wretch somehow found its way into the testing room. Subject: Entity 62, Clinker Toys. Item: Radio, Revision, Entity 15, Wretch. Time of test: April 23rd, 2021, 6:56 a.m. 6:57 a.m. Wretch and Clinker Toy are introduced in the same room. 6:58 a.m. Wretch begins laughing loudly, angering the Clinker Toy. 6:58 a.m. Clinker Toy screams and covers its ears before charging at the Wretch to attack it. 6:59 a.m. Clinker Toy scratches the Wretch with its claws, causing the Wretch to instinctively jump backwards in pain. 7 o'clock a.m. Wretch growls and begins punching and scratching the Clinker Toy, backing it into a wall. 7:01 a.m. Clinker Toy and Wretch begin wailing and attacking each other violently, such as scratching and biting each other. 7:23 a.m. The Wretch is now on the ground, bleeding profusely, as the Clinker Toy falls to the ground and dies, starting to melt into a pile of black slime. 7:25 a.m. The Wretch passes away as well, being surrounded by the black goop of the Clinker Toy. 7:31 a.m. Wretch begins growing various clockwork apparatus on its body. Pulleys and tubes begin sprouting from its flesh and bones. 7:42 a.m. The Wretch regains its life signs, but is now a zombified Clinker Wretch hybrid. 7:45 a.m. The now zombified Wretch begins moving around aimlessly, much like a standard Clinker Toy. The entity is exterminated via firearms, and also begins melting into a pile of blood and black slime. End log.